Good morning, everyone. This is John Scarborough. I wanted to talk a little bit today about feeding your hay. As you can see, this little spot right here, this is in our cow pens. We got this little spot every now and then, about once a year. You know, we catch the calves up, and we'll end up holding them in here in this little spot until they calm down a little bit. And so when we do, you know, we end up having feeding them about a bale, maybe two, depending on how long they're in here or how many calves are in here. So what I wanted to show is what happens when you feed hay in one spot. So I had to use this spot because we don't feed hay, or try very hard not to feed hay in one spot out on our pastures. But this spot's a good example because this in here we do that. You know, as you know, a catch pen is kind of your sacrificial area in a way. But what I wanted to show is this right here. This is about one bale a year, but look how rich that soil is. That is some really nice soil, and especially for our ground. I mean, you can dig real deep into that, and that's just pure black soil from earthworms. And what it actually is, if you look at it, is this high carbon is what that is. You see that? That's high carbon, because grass, when it rots and breaks down, it's a carbon based material just like any other material, but grass breaks down quicker than things like trees and stuff, so you're able to build up carbon quite a bit quicker. And that's why leaving some grass to die on your pastures and stuff, I never really call it waste, because it's carbon and it can turn into this right here. But what I wanted to talk about is if you do this in one spot. So like I've seen a lot of people in their pastures, they'll feed hay and they never move their ring. They have a ring. Now personally, we got really nice hills and I like to roll them out. So I really like to spread them out as much as possible, and you're getting all your fertilization all in one spot. But there are a few places where I have used rings, and if I do use rings, I move that ring every single time I put a new bale in there. And so I think it's just very important to remember to move your bales and move your rings if you do use rings. And if you don't use rings, then roll your hay out and roll it out in different places. Because if you don't, there's a number of things that happen. A, you're just putting all your fertilization in one spot. And if you're wanting to grow a garden there next year, that's probably a really good thing. But you're also putting a high concentration of litter and all like that, which can end up leading to certain diseases that can actually last into the next summer. Now that doesn't always happen, but it can happen. And I've also heard a number of farmers tell me that in their experience, when they have put the hay out in one spot or like a ring or something, then it really increases the fly production for the next year, because they'll get in there and get all in that old hay that used to be there. I don't know anything about that, because like I said, I never do that. I kind of learned not to do it. So another thing that ends up happening is, if you look in here in this pen, this is nothing but weeds. And there's a little bit of grass over there because we've never really fed hay there. But everywhere over here where you can see that we have fed hay, there's nothing but weeds. And ordinarily, putting out hay actually seeds your ground and can give you, like, promote grass growth. And it gives you a lot of high carbon, which you can tell how much carbon you're getting there. One bale a year has done that, you know, I mean, that's a lot of carbon. But if you continually do it in the same spot, and your cows are out there pugging up the ground, and they're in there just getting, especially if it's, you know, wet winter like we have here in Louisiana, then they will end up actually tearing the roots out of your perennial grasses and killing your grasses out. So then the next year, a lot of your grasses struggle to come back. And of course, your annual weeds, that they're in there too. There are annual weed seeds that come with your hay, and they will come up, because sometimes it's easier for an annual seed to come up than it is a perennial seed to come up. But if you don't kill your grass out, by leaving the hay in one spot and allowing them to pug it up really bad, then you're less likely to have this problem. Now, I'm not saying you won't have it. We do notice a higher increase of weeds where we roll hay out. But you go over it once with a bush hog and, you know, just clip it up high, and you don't seem to have the problem nearly as bad. Weeds is kind of something you're going to fight no matter what you do. But you don't have to have all weeds, and you can prevent it by not sitting there letting them completely just totally kill out the perennial grasses, just by not feeding in one spot. And the last thing I wanted to say was, by every time you feed it in one spot, you're putting your fertilization in just one place. Well, not only after you kill your perennial grasses is all that fertilization, if this was on top of a hill or something, would get washed out and end up in a creek. Well, then you lose all your carbon in your topsoil. But also, you end up, you only have one spot, only have one place. So if you are going to do that, definitely do it at the top of the hill so that your topsoil will roll down the hill and be less likely to end up in the creek. But the main thing is spread it out. Spread it out across several years and across several different pastures. Like, spread it out as much as you possibly can, and you're getting that fertilization everywhere, not just in one spot. Because if grass dies in a field, then the whole field is covered in grass. It naturally doesn't end up in one big pile. So if you're planning on making a garden next spring, I think this is really cool. I think you could do this right here every winter. I wouldn't suggest, I don't know how good it would be for your cattle, so to speak, as far as their health if you did it nonstop. But, you know, one bale or so, let them come up in there and get it. Might not be too bad. But as far as actually getting out on your pastures and trying to keep your annual grasses healthy and actually spreading out your carbon, I really wouldn't suggest it. I don't think it's the best thing. I would like to see this right here get spread evenly across my pasture. And it might not happen quite as quick as this because this is all concentrated in one spot. But it can slowly happen, and the annual grasses can survive. The perennial grasses can survive and keep on growing and stay stronger. One of the biggest problems with annuals and perennials, so like a perennial grass and then an annual weed, those annual weeds can take over a lot of times because the perennial grasses are eaten down by the cattle and they never get a chance to be stronger. You want to make sure that your perennial grasses are stronger than your annual weeds. Now, I'm not saying that you'll totally get rid of weeds that way, but you can make a huge difference. So anyway, I just wanted to throw this video out there. Anybody likes what I'm doing, don't forget to like the video. It really helps me out. I'm trying to grow my channel. And comment. I really like everyone's input. And don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Thanks.